Hello, it's Aimee, and welcome to my 5th year of Bujo Challenge, May edition. May will be a little bit different for the challenge because my first theme was a redrawing of my brain, and the second theme still was in reference to the stroke. I did a third redraw of my brain already, and I usually post a separate video for Stroke Awareness Month, so including that as part of this month's theme didn't sit right with me. The third theme was Koinobori, or Boys' Day in Japan, and last year's theme was dandelions and butterflies, and even those two themes alone were hard to combine. I decided to just stick with those two themes, and since last month's theme was super doodle heavy and color heavy, I kept everything monotone. I kept the key elements of the themes with the koi no bori flags at the top, some extra dandelion doodles at the bottom, and added another butterfly into the mix, making sure to have different designs for them. Unfortunately, since everything will only be line work, I left the sketch unfinished so I could record my line work process. I started with doing simple line work on top of my doodles so that I could erase the sketch before adding in extra details. The biggest reason why I hate recording my line work process is because I have to keep in mind of the camera view, and that means I'm not in my usual position of drawing. This leads me to make more mistakes and my lines not being as clean as I'd like them to be. That's the cost of keeping this theme monotone though, and honestly, it still turned out okay and it was worth it. I needed a break from colors. When it came to drawing in the second butterfly, this is where you can really see the frustration of recording my line work process. I messed up so many times and eventually said screw it, I'm doing it off camera, because anytime I tried to cover up the mistakes, it got worse and worse. I added in some tiny dandelion seeds to cover up any empty space, and then put in some fine details and shading on all of my doodles. It's kind of hard to see all of them because my hands were covering a lot of it now that I'm looking back at this video, but it's there. The shading was the tricky part for me because I don't usually shade in my drawings with line work. I heavily rely on the colors to do the shading for me, but since I only wanted to use fineliners for this piece, it was new territory for me. I took it slow, not going too heavy on the shading at first, and then when I got more comfortable, I added more shading in the areas that were too empty. In the koi no bori theme, I had some cloud designs in the background and wanted to do the same here to help the doodles pop out more. For the bigger clouds, I used a warmer gray marker, and for the smaller clouds, I used a cooler gray marker. Even though I didn't include the brain drawings into this cover page, I wanted to make sure I added an element from those drawings, which were the gold accents. I love kintsugi and the meaning behind it, and since I drew inspiration from it in a lot of my other drawings, I made sure to include it on the koi fish and the butterflies. To finish off the cover page, I wrote May in brush lettering, keeping it simple. When I first sketched out this cover page, I was not too confident on how it would turn out. Looking at it now, I ended up loving it, especially after I painted in the gold touches. Moving on to the next setup, this is where everything was falling apart. I have no idea why I thought it was a great idea at the time to draw in so many butterflies. To be fair, I sketched this before finalizing it, but I underestimated how long it was going to take to finish this page. I had to take a lot of breaks because throughout setting this up, I was getting more and more frustrated from the mistakes I kept making. I think what made drawing butterflies difficult was the fact that they are symmetrical. If I messed up one side, it would be really easy to tell on the other side. For that reason, I liked the butterflies that were only showing on its side, not the full view. Most of the butterflies I drew here were from the Animal Crossing roster. Because the fine liner was so bold and would be easier to notice if I messed up, I pulled out the ruler to make my lines nice and neat. I made sure to leave some empty spots near my doodles so that it wouldn't ruin them. Matching with the cover page, I added in some cloud designs in the background to give the spread more character. While working on this piece, you may have noticed something wrong with my calendar. If you noticed, good on you. If you didn't, like me, you would notice that the number of boxes in my spread were completely wrong. I miscounted the number of boxes needed for the weeks and only found out once I started to write in the dates. I really tried to seamlessly cover it up with some extra bujo paper while also keeping the design of the spread intact. For such a huge cover-up, I think it turned out alright. For my trackers and weeklies, I didn't want to go all out like I did last month, so I went with a similar setup as January, having the trackers on the left and the tabs for the weeklies on the right. I used the fine liner and ruler to set it up and added in the cloud designs behind it afterwards. I was over drawing butterflies at this point, so I kept this butterfly nice and simple while also adding in some details in the empty spaces so that it wasn't going to look too bland. I've always wanted to make a koi fish theme, not a koi nobori one, so I took the opportunity to make one as one of the tabs. It was a bit intimidating because I have seen so many incredible koi fish themes and I wanted to do it justice. What made it harder is that I'm not using any colors for mine, so I had to be a bit creative with the design. I shaded in the design with the fine liner, trying to keep the same angle and space between the lines as consistent as possible. When I finished one side of the doodle, I made sure to trace it on the opposite side of the page so that when you flip it over, it would still show the design. Once the line work for all of the doodles were done, it was time to cut out the tabs. I cut out the larger sections with scissors and left some space when it got closer to the doodles. I planned on using an X-Acto knife around the doodles to cut out the excess because it was easier to get a close and precise cut without messing up the paper. For the weeklies, I just used simple small boxes to fill in the pages. Before making the boxes complete, I wrote in the days of the week using faux calligraphy at first, and then scratched the idea entirely for the rest of the headers and stuck with simple cursive. When I make doodle tabs, I always forget about the space that shows after cutting them out. So to separate the weeklies, I colored in the empty space showing with gray Tombows, alternating between the warm and cool gray markers. Last up is my memories page. I went with a 1 line a day style this month, except it's 2 lines a day, like I did for January, because I don't like limiting my thoughts to just 1 line. Some days I have more to say than others, and I tend to regret not having enough space for it. I did faux calligraphy for the header and finished the rest of the spread with coloring in my doodles and lining each day. Here is the complete flip through of this month's spreads. This setup really held true for what it represented to me, which was resilience. The amount of times I messed up and had to completely redo things made it very frustrating, but the fact that I persevered through it all made it worth it in the end. I love the monotone colors, and my favorite doodles are the koi fish for sure. Maybe one day I'll do a theme with just koi fish, but we'll see. I plan on making a video to commemorate 10 years since my stroke for Stroke Awareness Month, so I look forward to showing you that. It'll be a more upbeat video compared to the last two videos, so I hope to see you there. If you gained some inspiration from this setup, please make sure to let me know so that I can share love and support on your post as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day and take care of yourself. Bye for now.